Welcome back to another episode of the Scale Smart Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob, and also the CEO and founder of NetScale Growth. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Justin Abrams, the co-founder of Cause of a Kind. Justin, thank you for joining me.
Jacob, it's a pleasure to join you, man. I can't wait to get into it.
So, Justin, kick me off. Tell me a little bit more about your experience, your journey to also becoming the co-founder of Cause of a Kind. And then after that, what do you guys do at Cause of a Kind?
Sure, man. Well, we started this organization, I want to say we're in our 9th year, but it didn't really start in the same way that we are today. Originally, my co-founder and I have been friends since we're 15 years old. We're old rock climbing buddies. And a couple years after I met him, maybe a few decades actually, we found our way into building our own software. But as everybody knows, building software, that's kind of hard for throughput. So we built 2 different pieces of technology, quickly failed at those, and then decided to follow opportunity, which was folks coming to us to try and build their web experiences or their software ideas. And naturally, it turned into what it is today, which is a software and web development agency. We work with businesses of all shapes and sizes, small, medium, and large, both enterprise, cause-back, mission-driven organizations, and every make and model in between. And we help business owners and creatives find their way through digital.
And so from transitioning from like a side project, let's call it, to like a full-time venture, sometimes it can be quite daunting. I know from myself, obviously, building up, like they call it nowadays, like side hustles. So I know, like, coming from like a side hustle to like a full-time job in that sense. What were some of the significant challenges you faced during this time, and how did you overcome them challenges?
Yeah, when we started this organization, it very much was a side hustle. I had a very thorough career before we decided to move to Cause of a Kind full time. I did that on January 1st, 2021. Some interesting things that occurred, it's the proper series of events. And if you're listening to what your experience is like, it kind of reveals itself to you. Of course, COVID was unprecedented time for us to all be working from home, burn the midnight oil, and build a business while you are managing a high-level career. So for me, that was my exact equation. We had this business long before COVID. COVID just gave us ample time to be able to burn the candle at both ends. And, luck would have it, a few incredible enterprise deals came across our desk in late 2020, which gave us the signal and the opportunity to comfortably sunset our careers and move full time into building the business. Doesn't necessarily happen so fortunately for lots of business owners. There are different things that lots of entrepreneurs have to be attuned to in order to be prepared to leave their careers or maybe go both feet in the sun and run at a business that they're trying to build. For us, it was, my partnership is a superpower for me. So the two of us having the same gut feeling and making the same decisions in 2-step often makes the experience a little bit easier to manage and stomach and navigate. So I'm very fortunate to have a partner that I'm very fond of. My partner, Mike Rispoli, is the CTO and chief architect here at Cause of a Kind. And together we make most decisions. And so back then, where we had a real unprecedented opportunity to go full time, that's about 5 years ago now. And the rest is kind of history. We've been growing at all cost.
Yeah. And I think, like, from my experience as well, I started my first company when was it? It was 2022 I started my first company, so like 2.5 years ago. And I remember, like, when you talk to the people around you, you say, oh, I'm going to start this new business, and like, if they don't know what it is, they're a bit like, oh, really? Is it worth doing that type of business? And mine was an e-commerce company, right? And I'm actually exiting it this year. So the people who laughed at me then, I'm now laughing at them. I remember I started that business and like nobody knew what like e-commerce was. It was like up and coming again. So I started it, and then 6 months in, I was like, nah, this isn't for me. So then I kind of stopped it, went back to working like a standard corporate job because I enjoyed it. And then it's almost like something just like clicked, and you were like, actually, no, like I actually do want to go down that route. I'm not sure if you had that same kind of thought, but it's like this like cell in my brain just got switched on, and I was just like tunnel visioned, and it was growth at all costs to the business. And then I actually went full time. I think it was about 9 months later after that happened. So it was like 9 months just purely on the business, making sure the business is growing and growing and growing. And I think it's great when you start something. People obviously just come into companies, work their way up to like a CEO or become eventually co-founders, etc. Right? But when you've actually built the company up from the ground up and you scale it, I think it's so much more rewarding as well.
I have a little bit of a different experience. I 100%, echo what you're saying. Lots of
Mm,
times that definitely is a common path. For me, I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur pretty much my whole life. I come from a
mm,
family of multiple generations of entrepreneurship. It's something I was a student of. It's something that I've always aspired to have. But when I was younger, maybe like leaving college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do or what I wanted to go into business for. There wasn't a business available within the family to worry about successing. So I went to work first, and I looked at going to work as an opportunity to learn skills for other companies, for other divisions, for, to find the ability to work with customers that the stakes are a little bit lower. And I really acquired a field master's degree in enterprise client services, marketing, and sales. And so those skills compounded themselves over a 15-year career before I ever felt comfortable to move into an entrepreneurship role. All the while, my whole life, I've always had some type of side hustle. I've always been entrepreneurial. I made my first dollar when I was 8 years old, shoveling snow with my boy Chris. Like the ability to always make money and generate ideas and build services and find my way to value, that has always been something that I have attached to.
mm.
At the same time, I've always had a real job, like something where I was collecting a paycheck, something where I was accountable. So I was always burning the candle at both ends. And it really wasn't until I was trying to figure out, what does the next decade of my life look like? Do I want to give that portion, I'm talking like prime fees and low and young fees. Do I want to give those years to another organization and kind of solidify my career? Or do I want to go and try and make my run at entrepreneurship? And again, the right series of events revealed themselves over COVID and shortly thereafter that just gave me the opportunity to go full fledged. So I always knew I wanted to get here. I didn't know how I was going to get here. But for me, as I look back, all the dots connect.
Yeah, I think that's great. And like, it seems like we've come from two completely different like paths. Like I've had people in my family who have had businesses, but not I wouldn't call them like entrepreneurs. They've just like kind of had their own company, which they've kind of managed to get over each month. And it was just like you just kind of fall into when I started my journey, it was like online courses were just a massive thing, right? So everywhere you see was like buy this, buy that, buy that. And I was really, really young at the time as well. So I was like, oh my God, like what's all this stuff? So I didn't really have any money either. So I just had to start. But no, I think a big thing as well, which I think people are kind of afraid to do, is just take that risk. Is you look at COVID, right? That just shows how quickly things can be taken from you. So I think being able to kind of just take that risk and be like, do you know what? Like, for example, I've got a couple of months of living put away. Who cares? Let's just risk it. If it doesn't work out, I'll just do the same thing which I'm doing now. I'll just go get a job. So it's interesting to hear your side of it as well. And with that like mindset of you, do you think that's being able to play a big role in you being able to scale the company you're in now?
I think I am not reinventing the wheel. I'm following a playbook. I'm in an industry that has incredible incumbents. There are some wild stories and formulas to follow. And I'm a student not only of my industry, but of business in general. So as I aim to scale a business, it's really like, what is an achievable goal? What's a reach goal for this organization? you know, our business scales in two ways. One is innovation and talent, and the other way is in customers and sales. And, both of those ways are really important to us. But I think for me, my experience in seeing other family members and their companies, other close friends and the businesses that they've built, there's a difference between running a small business and running a company. And then there's another scale or jump there, which is running a corporation. And then you get into an enterprise, which may be multinational or something like that. There are different levels of which business entrepreneurs aim to scale their businesses. For me, I want to aim for that company/corporation area. I don't know if I want to go multinational enterprise size agency. I'm not sure if that is what I'm cut out for. I, like you, am, chronic entrepreneur. I run multiple companies at this point, and the goal for me is to continue to do that. That's the game that I really like, is building businesses and scaling from zero to market and watching them scale to, self-sustaining entities. When you start to get into larger enterprises, the entrepreneurial side of that kind of goes away. You have a lot more infrastructure. There's a ton of middle management and C-suite opportunities. And I'm not sure that that's the type of organization that I aim to run at the moment. Of course, my goals could change and opportunity may reveal themselves, but I'm really interested in that company/corporation, which is definitely owner-led, owner-involved in leadership and day-to-day decisions, and scaling incredible teams with great reputation.
And just to shift the conversation now, Justin, I think it'd be interesting to get your perspective on this, because I speak to a lot of people within the same space, software development agency type stuff. I think the market now is becoming so saturated, and I think a big thing which I hear from like founders, CEOs and owners, right, is they're struggling to stand out because the market is so crowded and saturated. So what's some things you guys are doing to make sure you stay competitive and you always have that you're staying ahead of the competitive landscape?
It's such a good question. And, the idea of saturation I play with all the time. The market always has room for mastery. So it's saturated with nonsense. And so there's a commoditization process that happens in most industries. For sure, it happens in our industries, where you can get into like wage wars, try to find the cheapest labor on the planet to accomplish X task. That has its place in every industry, but my organization is in the pursuit of mastery. We're in the pursuit of standing out and being exceptional, being recognized for our experiences, creating community, trying to bring together as many top talents as we can. So I'm emulating businesses that really take a forward-facing approach to being masterful thought leaders within their space. So for me, we do this in several ways: in person, digitally. We do this through our marketing motion. We do this through our hiring strategy. Our podcast, Strictly From Nowhere, originally was created to feature the founders that come through our startup accelerator. And now it features founders across all industries and their journeys from zero to market. So trying to become a thought leader and an exceptional place to do business for any founder that's trying to build in tech from zero to market is a strong place for us to live. In our marketing motion, we truly talk about the exceptional behavior of our work, what we're trying to do at the bleeding edge, our progress in AI, the type of talent that we aim to retain and where we aim to do business. All of that rhetoric and things that we try to do to differentiate ourselves, it's all part of that brand awareness strategy and us trying to stand out against, the rest of an industry. I don't really look at the industry as competition. I think that there is the right service provider for every client and vice versa. There's the right client for every service provider, and there's enough business for everybody to go around. I am a huge believer in strategic partnerships and elevating other organizations that do similar work to what we do. Maybe it could be a foreign organization that has incredible talent but doesn't have US representation, or vice versa. Maybe I'm looking for international representation and I don't have local staff in that area, and I'm looking for strategic partnerships. I also love just the other side of this business, which has to do with some of the other skills. It could be motion graphic design. It could be digital design. It could be videography and photography, all sorts of niche agencies that have specialties, but that come across opportunities. So I really look at the industry not as saturated. I look at it as commoditized. And my goal is to build a decommoditized version, which is synonymous with a superior service model and a masterful experience. And that's how I aim to differentiate us. And that conversation would come out of my mouth in a public event. It would happen digitally in our brand awareness and marketing strategy. And that kind of is what we want to be known for.
And I know you just touched on it a little bit there, Justin, but just to kind of finish off, what are some of the goals you've got for the company over the next, let's say, 12 months or so?
Yeah, I think growing for us is growing very deliberately. We're looking for the most incredible partners. We're not necessarily focused on logos and brands specifically. I'm focused more on cause back and mission driven initiatives. So to me, it's important to support brands that are truly doing the best work. The best type of businesses for me are the ones that are trying to make humanity level impact. Those are really important initiatives for us. So I want to scale to as many organizations that really are focused on driving impact
Yeah.
at scale.
Yeah.
Of course, I want to chase incredible logos and those recognizable name brands. That's really important for the organization. We have a quiver of all of those. But for me, as I think about how I want to lead this organization and the type of business I want to attract, it's the one that has the most impact and as close to humanity level impact as we possibly can get. Over the next few years, I also aim to build our program. We have an incredible team of super talented and dense individuals. And my goal is to continue to expand that team, to add an incredible career path for these individuals and create additional opportunity for them to support their families in the work that they do. For us, I think it's really important to create momentum and strategic partnerships for the industry. So I really aim to build that Rolodex of extreme partnerships with brands that don't do what we do, but have obvious crossover. We're super bullish in person. I think there's a huge craving for people to get back into in-person opportunities and face-to-face connection and shake a hand, see the white of people's eyes. So we have a huge initiative here on Long Island where I'm from. It's called the Long Island Technologists Meetup. It's built by Cause of a Kind. And the goal is to bring together technologists from all different arenas, not just engineers, and get everybody in person to have networking opportunities, to find hiring events, and to really learn about different niche topics that technologists are suited to educate each other on. So everything really has to do with the evangelization of Cause of a Kind and how can we build this brand that is synonymous with masterful excellence in digital building.
And if people wanted to reach out, Justin, and find out a little bit more about yourself and what you guys are doing, where's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, we're on all platforms, at Cause of a Kind and at Cousin Justin, CUZZIN, JUSTIN. You also can shoot me an email. Absolutely would love to hear it. Let's do the general one, which is COAK at causeofakind.com.
Amazing. Well, Justin, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been great having you on.
Likewise, Jacob. Thanks so much and good luck to you, man.
Thank you.